what was important about the prizes, to be honest with you, wasn't so much the nominal value or like what have you to HR. It was more, how do I make this person as an individual feel seen? Because they're all catered to whoever I'm getting the gift for. So from an HR perspective, it was don't exceed this amount. From a tech perspective, it was like, make it something I want.
Rising above the buzz of ultrasonic cleaners and the clanking of stainless steel are the ideas and voices that are changing an industry. You're listening to the Beyond Clean podcast, the central nexus for the people, processes, and products that are improving our sterile processing world. Each week, we speak with frontline technicians, CEOs, engineers, and entrepreneurs with a common goal: to help you fight dirty, every instrument, every time. Whether you're tuning in for education or inspiration, we're glad you did. Now turn on those washers and turn up the volume. It's time to go beyond clean.
All right, Clean Freaks, welcome back to another episode of the Beyond Clean podcast. You're listening to Season 33, Built Different, a season dedicated to the training and education of sterile processing technicians. I am your host, Bobby Parker, and joining me in studio as star co-host for the season is Jason Minutillo. Jason, welcome back. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Bobby. Looking forward to this guest.
All right. Well, this is going to be a fun one, Jason. So a little side story for you here. I was at HSPA in Baltimore and was giving a talk on gamification in sterile processing and how to run like a sterile processing Olympics for your department. Think like Michael Scott Office Olympics kind of thing, like that is fully scale what we were doing. And I wanted to put this presentation together on how to do that. So anyway, while I'm at the show, I see this poster presentation that somebody's put together there at HSPA on gamification, and knew that I just had to talk with her. So haven't gotten to speak yet in person with this guest, but connected with her by email, and really excited to see what she's done using games to try to make a difference in her department.
Well, I mean, games are great, and it won't fit my style. I'll be honest. That's not how I operate, but I do know that there are others that enjoy that process. But really, I think that's going to actually help build culture, and that's going to be huge. You build the right kind of culture with the right type of carrot motivation, you're going to go many places. So I'm looking forward to hearing her discovery and her discussion.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. We've got the right guest to talk to us about gamification today. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
From the studios of Healthcare HQ, you're listening to Beyond Clean, the global voice of sterile processing.
And joining us now in studio is Ashley Thompson, sterile processing leader out in New Hampshire, and also the president of the New Hampshire HSPA chapter. Ashley, thanks for saying yes to our invitation. Really glad to finally get you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been an honor to come out and physically no, but virtually yes, talk to you guys and see your faces.
Yeah, for sure. I guess for those who don't know, we don't fly all our guests into Nashville to sit across the table from them. We do all this over the air with fantastic producers and such. But it is nice to be on a video call with you, Ashley, and get to see you sort of face to face, as we say in the post-COVID era. Well, before we get started into this interview that I'm personally excited about, gamification is a topic that I care a lot about, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from in that topic. Before we dive into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing in the sterile processing industry?
Sure. So I started in sterile processing about a decade ago back home in Kentucky. And then around the COVID times, I started traveling and I discovered that education was an option to pursue within the field. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. I made my way out to New England. I survived a few winters, and now I'm in a small regional access hospital currently. I'm the manager there, but working on running the chapter and just trying to get more education out there to the community and help to provide resources to people that need them.
Yeah, so you've been out in New Hampshire for a few years now, it sounds like. We don't talk a lot about local chapters on the show, not on purpose. It just doesn't come up a ton. I'm curious, do you want to tell us at all like what that process was like, going from brand new to New Hampshire to helping run the local HSPA chapter and why you made that step?
Yeah, so it's actually, I kind of lucked out, if we're being completely honest. I was working in Maine and I got really involved in their chapter with their current president, Rebecca Peplau. So I was working with her both in my 9-to-5 job and in the chapter. And we decided that Northern New England wasn't being served very well by having one chapter in charge of multiple states. So we kind of decided, okay, well, you live in New Hampshire. You know the people in New Hampshire because you've been networking in that space. Go ahead and you could better serve that state and I could better serve this state and Vermont can better serve their people. And then we'll figure it all out and we'll all work together collaboratively to still get the education out there, but just more efficiently, basically.
Yeah, nice. And that sounds like a great model for some of those places that have folks driving in, 5-6 hours to make it to the local shows, raising up those leaders and starting another chapter. We know Rebecca, a great friend of the show and a good person to be working with professionally and through the chapter. I don't want to get too distracted here, but last kind of intro question, what kinds of collaboration have you done with those other chapters since you're so close to them and kind of started through the same group?
Yeah, so we do a lot of education sharing in terms of like CEs, for instance. If we have some cool thing that we made, for instance, I made a little graphic that had a bunch of QR codes to a bunch of different websites so I could just hang it in my department. Well, of course, I shared it with my chapter, but it doesn't really have to stop there. So we decided to collaborate with the other states and send it along their way, and they kind of pay the same respect to us. If they find something that's helpful, they help out. We're working on maybe doing some networking things together instead of it just being, okay, let's show up and all day let's sit in an auditorium and learn. It could be more of a networking thing and also an educational thing so that across the states we're still meeting in the middle, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I imagine folks who are involved in regional chapters that are maybe struggling or maybe trying to figure out how to replicate are going to have a lot of questions around that. So I guess we'll plug here at the start. Get in touch with Ashley if you want to know how that model is going and some lessons learned along the way. Ashley, we got connected through actually the HSPA national show this year. I was browsing through all of the posters and the poster presentations that get put up, just because, there's always something really unique on those posters and try to make it through there. And I came across your poster, which was all about the topic of gamification and how you had kind of transformed what the engagement and the education in your department looked like through using points and games, which I don't know, we talk about doing that kind of thing a lot, but I think it was really cool to see a department like took a swing of the bat and actually implemented something and measured some results. So I knew I had to get you on the show here to just ask some further questions about that, introduce people to that poster. And as a bonus, we're going to attach that PDF of that poster to this episode. If you're listening on the Beyond Clean app or through the website, you should be able to find the bonus material there. Or if you want to find it over on the HSPA website, you can find the poster gallery and find the gamification one there for Ashley's. But anyway, I've got loads of questions for you about that poster. One bit of bragging on you before we launch into it. HSPA always goes through some kind of process to identify some excellent posters and offers awards. So wanted to say congrats on being the third place poster selected at the show this year. Great job on doing your poster.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's one of the, it caught me off guard for sure. Like you work hard and then you're like, oh, but there's so many good posters. But
yeah, was this your first one submitted or do you do this every year?
It was my first poster ever submitted in the history of HFPA.
Really big congratulations then.
There you go. Well,
thank you.
For sure. What was that process like? Anything that you learned in submitting a poster or any preconceived notions about like who you have to be or what you have to accomplish in order to submit one?
Honestly, I learned a lot. When I started out, I was like, okay, it needs to be like a very professional, maybe 2 colors. Just put it out there. It needs to look like what one always thinks of when you think of like a professional organization, right? But then as I was making it, it seemed like I wasn't being true to the team and also to me and like who I am. And I decided, like kind of just show a little bit more personality through it. So for the folks who do take a gander at it, it's very colorful and it's got like a bunch of little snippets all over the place. But I felt like, okay, well, if they don't love it, at least I put it out there. I did the work and I stayed true to like the brand of who we are as a team was kind of my takeaway was it's okay to be you.
That's right. That's really cool. And I would encourage anybody out there who's got something that they want to share, a thing that they accomplished, something that they're working towards, something that they're right squarely in the middle of that you think other departments would benefit from. It's not super hard to put these posters together. They give you templates and sizes that you need through HSPA. Go ahead and get that submitted. I knew one department that always wanted to send a leader or a supervisor to HSPA, but couldn't get it approved. But you know what? When they sent a poster in and got a poster approved and were asked to come and represent that poster, that's like instant ROI, justification for your leadership team to say, hey, would you send us as delegates to go represent this poster in our organization at this show? That's a great way to get a yes for, we'll cover your travel to send somebody there. So definitely get in there and submit a poster for next year's show in 2027. Well, Ashley, let's get into the topic of your poster. I already let the cat out of the bag that it was all about gamification. Could you start us off at this call, just kind of at the definitions level? Like, what are we talking about when we're saying gamification in sterile processing?
So I think everyone has their own level of what they think of how deep gamification is. But for me personally, what I was thinking about when I thought of the game, for lack of a better phrase, was the apps like Finch or like Habitica, if anyone's ever used that to make sure that they do their cleaning, which is what I do, or even like Fitbit, things like that, they give you like a goal to work towards or like some sort of tangible thing to measure it, but they make it so that you're like achieving something, but simultaneously you're doing the things that you're supposed to do. That's kind of how I think about gamification in SPD. I'm sure the actual textbook definition is different, but I also think that everyone has their own take on what that gamification looks like for them or for their team or whoever.
Yeah, sweet. So gamification then would be like, putting games where you wouldn't expect them to be, like house cleaning chores, like you said, putting points and badges on things to help us be motivated in doing the things we want to do. And so you figured out a way to do that in the sterile processing department. Can you tell us a little bit about what your team's journey with gamification looks like? Is this like a 3 months ago experiment? Like, how long have you been doing it? How'd you come up with the idea?
Yeah, so we've been running it now for about 2 years. So I started the whole process in its infancy when I was there in my infancy as a manager. So I came in hot immediately. I've got this great idea. I'm changing everything. You know how it
Ready
goes.
To change some stuff. Yep.
Yeah. But I got there and it just felt like, we have daily huddles and they were just like very one-way communication. So that's kind of how the idea started to blossom is I was like, how can I make this more engaging for everyone we all have to show up here and we all have to do the thing, right? So we might as well make it a not silent experience. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, what we kind of did was we added on to it as we went. So it started with, okay, guys, I just need you to get your time cards in on time and correctly. And then as we collectively worked together, because it was a very collaborative experience, we started to build more things. So it started with time cards and then it was productivity because everyone loves productivity, right? And then it became this education thing. It started to include test prep questions. It started to include like instrument identification. It started to include loaner check-ins and things like that. So it's kind of just this baby that we've fostered from the beginning of my career at Huggins Hospital, which is where I'm working right now. And then we just kind of grew as a team. And as we grew as a team, the game also grew.
I love the organic approach. That's interesting. And it starts with somewhere, obviously. And we, previous guests, talked about how do you move in a direction and, one bite at a time, eating an elephant, right? But so what does that look like? What are the techs working towards and what does the recognition look like?
Okay, yeah. So they all have different goals that they were working at when I started. So for instance, we had one technician who needed to get certified, right? That's where the test prep questions came in. We had some people that were like, I know what I'm doing, but I feel like I could go faster. And so I took something vague that they wanted to do, and I assigned it a point, a tangible point that they received at some point. And then weekly, we have basically recap meetings where I go through the stats and I say, okay, Lucas had the most work done in decontamination, so he gets 1 point for that, and so on and so forth. And throughout the week, they also get points for the test prep questions that I hang up or instrument identification questions. And then monthly, they receive an award, basically. Whoever wins, not everyone.
Okay.
Okay. This is a little bit of my personality, Ashley, but I tend to be the type of leader or thinker that wants things to be like fully thought through and vetted before we try something. And so I always tried to poke holes in everything that came down from the idea think tank. And so I hesitate to, but I'm already over here like thinking through, if I were to try this, like what disasters would come along? And I can think of a few. So I'm going to throw a couple of those objections at you, and you can tell me like how you guys have navigated those. So one objection has to do with the prizes. So we had handed out like gift cards or, prizes of pretty nominal value in the past. And that got, eventually got shut down. They're like, no, that's a taxable thing. It has to come through their income, or we'd have to report it and they'd have to take it out of their paycheck. Like, how do you navigate like what the prize looks like in a creative way that doesn't get you in trouble with HR?
For sure. First things first was just asking for permission before I asked for forgiveness. Although
that's a novel idea, yeah.
I know it's great. Don't come for me, guys. But so we did talk about it beforehand. I was basically given like a X amount dollar wise that it was not to exceed this, right? And there are still people. Everyone's motivated differently. So it's the age old no one wants a pizza party thing. But some people are still motivated by just like a cafeteria freebie, right? So the folks on my team who are very food motivated, they still want that, or they just want a little snack. But what was important about the prizes, to be honest with you, wasn't so much the nominal value or like what have you to HR. It was more, how do I make this person as an individual feel seen? Because they're all catered to whoever I'm getting the gift for. So from an HR perspective, it was don't exceed this amount. From a tech perspective, it was like, make it something I want.
Okay. Well, and even sometimes just like the reward of winning is enough. We used to do quizzes at the end of the month during staff meetings, like using Kahoot and those kinds of gamed quizzes to be competitive. And the prize would be like a stuffed rubber band monkey that you can launch with like the finger launchers across the room, and people would, compete to try to win that monkey. Nobody's going to do anything with it, but yeah, just like the competition part of it is there. The other hole that I'm kind of mentally poking through this is you mentioned the team dynamics and that you've got a very competitive team. Sounds like a smaller team at this Access Hospital. The team that I'm thinking of has a pretty wide variety of personalities, and some who I think would kind of cross their arms and prefer not to play if that was announced as like the newest thing. Like, what was the onboarding and experience of your team kind of culturally as you're introducing this new thing? Was it hard to get everybody on board, or in your particular case, was everybody all about it?
No, I definitely had some people who drug their feet. I find that oftentimes with situations like that, though, it seems to be okay, well, show me that it's going to work first, and then I'll decide how I feel about it. So that was kind of my experience. I do have a small team, but I've also done similar things at a larger hospital in North and Maine. So with that, it was quite a bit more difficult. I want everyone to like adjust their expectations accordingly, but it was able to be implemented. It wasn't an awful idea and everyone hated it. And there was a fist fight at the end of the day, right? It was just like, maybe some people have different levels of participation, but as long as you give them the autonomy, I found, to decide if they want to participate or not, most people have come around to be like, okay, well, actually kind of, I want a Labubu, or I want these salty snacks, or whatever the case may be. Oh, well, look what they've got. Now I don't have that, so I better play so I can get it.
That's interesting. I mean, because I think a lot of, I know me personally, I'm that's not how my brain works. So I'm like, man, just give me the straight and narrow. I'd probably be one of those naysayers, unfortunately, because I just do me. I'm self-motivated anyways. But with that being said, obviously, when you have those people coming on and everything else like that, what are some metrics that show that this is working? Like, how do you determine that the program and the gamification, other than adopting and seeing that movement of staff and joining in, how do you know it's working? How do you know that teams are getting stronger in their operations?
Yeah, so I will say the most impactful one to me was the culture, but that's not to say that there weren't like measurable things that changed. So using loaner check-in and check-out as an example, I can look at the history 2 years ago of how many of the loaners were actually being checked into our instrument tracking software and arriving versus how many were there, but they weren't there on paper in the system, right? And then kind of comparing that. It was a lot easier, frankly, when it came to production. Like I can show very easily production because that's just the nature of instrument tracking softwares. It's a lot harder to measure the cultural change, but that's not to say it's not there. It's just not as like tangible.
No, I can appreciate the culture piece. That's actually probably the biggest nominal change in terms of really workflow improvement and quality improvement. If you like what you're doing and you like working with who you're working with, you're probably going to put out good quality. With that being said, you said something earlier about speed, and this is where my brain went. Bobby already talked about some of those items that, you kind of go, wait a minute, I got a head scratch here. In our opinion or my process is, speed kills. That's where you see those gaps in processing. So how are you maintaining, back to productivity, maintaining operations, still providing that good culture, but then we're making sure that we're hitting all the necessary steps? Because that would be where my brain goes is, okay, cool. Can you do that tray now in 20 minutes? How about 15? How about 10? And now you're missing steps.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. So when we did implement the productivity to kind of offset that, we also implemented points for not getting quality events that are tracked within the system. So if you're assembling a whole bunch of trays in an hour, that's great. That's all, wonderful. But if you got a quality event, then now you're losing another point. So sure, you're getting the point for production in prep and pack, but you miss the quality point because you're going too fast. So if you just slow down maybe a little bit, you can get the production point, but also the quality point because you're taking the care to pay attention to what you're doing.
Oh, I love that, Ashley. It's pros and cons. There's pluses and negatives. Yeah. I love that. Awesome.
Yeah, always trying to figure out how to put the carrot in the right spot. I've experienced it, Jason. We would celebrate prep and pack production, and particularly we had the problem of our tracking system didn't weight values very well. So we were celebrating items processed, but then your one peel pack counts the same as an open heart tray, right? And so they would say, well, this isn't working. So we'll just do instruments process. Well, now you're Cynthi's small frag that has 1,200 items in it. That counts for some serious points. So people were really motivated to go after those trays. So yeah, it's always how do you design something that produces the behavior that you want? But using games and using some positive reinforcement and not negative, even the research has a lot to say about it being a really powerful tool. This is your episode, Ashley, so I'll be quick. But my favorite story about gamification was back in 2010, Volkswagen put out a contest for trying to positively influence traffic patterns. And the winner of the contest suggested that they would do a speed camera lottery. And they tried it out. They set up these speed cameras that would, issue speeding tickets. But if you went past it at the proper speed or under the speed limit, you would be entered into a lottery to win some money that was paid for by the people who had the speeding tickets, right? And the data they got out of that was actually really impressive in reducing the average speed through that area. Now, I don't think it's used anywhere currently as the traffic pattern, but thinking about how can we insert some positive motivation in a way that goes in addition to expectations and negative consequences can really be powerful for changing behavior patterns, even if not everybody decides that it's going to be their way to play. And some people would just rather have the expectations and check in and do the job.
That's you, Jason.
Yeah, that's totally me. I'm self-motivated, so I was always let me find the why, right? And I just kept going, and I went down rabbit holes, and I just entertained myself in that sense. That's 23 years in the industry, so I must have done something right. But yeah, I didn't need the manager that was hey, let's go ahead and see how many trays you could do. I didn't need that, right? That was me. Like I said, I would be probably one of your naysayers, but I would not be a negative naysayer. I would be going, hey, they can do that. They can go get all the prizes. I'm going to continue doing me. But that's why I was curious. Like I said, you're going to have adopters. That's an indication it's working. But what are those quality metrics behind it? So with all that being said, I mean, how did you kick this off? You kind of started a little bit earlier on in the conversation of we started with time cards. Was that the aha moment that everyone was like, cool? And then did you pull everybody to say, what do we want to work on next? What was that organic transformation?
Yeah. So we, like I mentioned before, we have our daily huddles, right? So I pitched the idea and told everyone that this is what we're going to do. But like, if you hate it, let me know. Like, I'm very much you can tell me if you think this is a bad idea and we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll figure it out together, but we'll figure something else out. So we start with the time cards. And then I was like, okay, let me talk to my director, my boss, and see, okay, what is something that you want to see improved? So then I took that. I went back to the team. We talked about that. But then the team themselves, I noticed like a noticeable change in the communication that surrounded our huddles, where it became less me talking to them and more of like a back and forth conversation, which is what I was shooting for with the whole idea anyway. So it worked out. But then they were like, okay, well, I want to do points for the loaners because I feel like I'm the only one doing loaners and that's not fair. Which valid, so we started, okay, we're going to give 2 points for the loaners because everyone hates checking in the loaners. So you give more point value to the things that people want to do less and less points to the things that everyone has to do as their day to day. And it kind of grew that way. I will say we reached a point where there was talk of pointflation in the huddle. We were like, there's too many points. We got to do something.
Even economically, it's working. I like it.
Yeah, the salty snack economics is getting out of control. You have to think
about the economics. The pointflation, we can't have it happening.
Oh, man.
My points aren't going anywhere, and they're worth half of what they used to be. So we made it a conversation. We were like, there were a lot of, I want a point for showing up to work on time. And it's like, okay, well, now we're doing pointflation and you can't do that anymore. Right. So making it a conversation, I think helped not only in engagement, but in them wanting to like engage in the actual game because it's like, okay, well, I decided that this was worth trying for. So now I reckon I better try for it. So.
Yeah, that's really cool. Ashley, one of the things from your poster that I want to make sure that we include in here towards the end of the call is around technician growth and motivating like additional certifications and professional growth. How have you worked that in, and have you seen any transformation of your team members like really like taking root in the sterile processing industry as a result of those initiatives?
Yeah, 100%. So I would say outside of the cultural change, that's the next biggest change, if not a tie for the largest change within the department. So when I started, I think it was like a 50 to 60% certification rate for CRCST. And then outside of me being the leader, like no one else had any of the additional certifications. As of 2 weeks ago, I have 100% CRCST certification rate amongst my team. So shout out to my team. Let's see. I've got 3 people with the CER, 2 people with CIS, and 1 sitting for her CHL. So you've seen like a significant increase in even the motivation. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not giving them points for additional certifications, but because we've created the culture of wanting to learn more through the pop quizzes and wanting to learn more through the instrument quizzes and things like that, they seem to have really gotten involved. They're involved in the chapter and not just because I'm their boss. I pinky swear I'm not making them show up. But it's been a lot of, okay, I see that I can do this. I feel recognized because people at the end of the day, they're super motivated by progress, by recognition, and then just like having a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And I think that making that cultural change made them recognize in themselves, I can do this. And actually there's more to this than just showing up every day and doing my job. There's like an entire community of people that are doing the same thing as me and that I can learn from and that I can grow from and then I can further my education. And they seem to have taken hold and done that.
Yeah. Well done. And you're absolutely right. That positivity is contagious, not just like, having a smile at work, but developing a team that really cares to learn and fueling that. And it just becomes contagious. You feel out of place joining that department and being the one who's like, nah, I'm going to golf on Saturday. I don't want to go to the event. You're like, you know what? There's something important here. And I care about the patients. And like, I want to know the best. I want to be the best. Like that type of culture really does catch on. I've gotten to see some of the similar transformations in departments that I've been in as well, and been witness to some really great leaders just bringing about a great deal of change and driving towards professional growth in departments. And you feel like when you're working in one of those places that things are moving and things are happening. Like sterile processing does not feel like a dead end street when you're in those kinds of departments. So well done. And I hope that's a great inspiration for folks. Ashley, I know that people are going to have additional questions after this interview just about how you've navigated some of the complexities of the game, but also just how you've worked towards fostering a culture like that where folks want to show up to work and want to continue growing in their career field. What would be the best way for people to get in touch with you after the show?
Sure. I've got a LinkedIn. It's just my name as it appears here for those who didn't hear the introduction. It's just Ashley and Thompson. You can find me there. You can email me, which my email address is athompson.hspa@gmail.com. Or you can email me at the chapter one, which is White Mountain abbreviated, mthspa@gmail.com.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Ashley. I would encourage everybody to reach out to her. I can't believe that we haven't had you on the show yet. This was a fantastic interview. We're definitely going to have you back at some point. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
And that was Ashley Thompson, sterile processing leader and New Hampshire HSPA chapter president, talking to us about how gamification has really been a tool and a lever to help transform the culture in her department. Jason, I enjoy all of our guests, and we always, in the seasons that we put together, always have one or two episodes that are a little bit outside the box. I really enjoyed this one. And this one was way outside the box, thinking about like how to do education and competencies well in your department. Like getting creative with making learning fun in your department sometimes is just as important as like how robust and compliant your checkboxes are. And so I just thought this was a breath of fresh air for the season.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, ultimately, I think most SPD departments, it's a drudge. It's a dreadful place sometimes because there's just not enough culture. There's not enough happiness, right? And gamification she was talking about, I mean, it brought a different culture. And culture, I always tell people culture will eat hard work's breakfast every day, right? If you have a good culture, you can pull anybody into it and make it work. So, culture wins the day in this one.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that, because inevitably in a department that's got some hard workers in it. I mean, she even alluded to this. Those hard workers are eventually going to get frustrated that they're the only ones checking in the loaners. Like they don't want to pick up the trash off the floor that everybody else keeps throwing down. And so your high performers end up leaving. And so, yeah, creating that culture where everybody wants to try and everybody cares. Like there's a little bit more forgiveness amongst peers of like, yeah, that person can't work quite as fast as I can in decontam, but like I can see they're giving their effort and I can see they really care about the patients. Like there's a lot of grace there, and you can do some pretty powerful things. Like she talked about with all those certifications and people showing up on Saturdays for events like that only happens when people have bought in, have drunk the Kool-Aid. They're all in for sterile processing and patient safety. And that's what it's all about, man.
Yep. Completely agree.
Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. We've got a couple more coming at you here in this season on competencies and education. I hope this one's been helpful to you. Go check out Ashley's poster again if you haven't done so already, and reach out to her if you've got any questions. But until we talk to you again next time, on behalf of Jason, myself, and the whole team over at Beyond Clean, keep fighting dirty.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Beyond Clean. As a reminder, you can help support us by subscribing to Beyond Clean on your favorite podcast app, or by downloading the smartphone app on iPhone or Android. Simply search for Beyond Clean in the App Store or Google Play. The best thing about downloading the smartphone app is that you can access bonus content for certain episodes and view episodes in certain categories, like articles on the go and vendor spotlights. Are you following us on LinkedIn or Facebook yet? If you are and you love an episode or post, then let your social network know about it. Like, comment, or share our posts along with your thoughts and keep the conversation going. If you have any topics or guests that you would like to recommend for a future episode, just send us an email to info@beyondclean.net. We look forward to hearing from you.